back to Flashpoint. I think as we start to look ahead to what we perceive will be the biggest issues of 2017, I think it's unavoidable that some of them are really reaching a critical mass right now in the last week or two of this year, Debbie, and one of them has to be Israel. I suppose there are some who believe that this has been terribly unfair of President Obama to completely sort of light off a bunch of firecrackers as he's leaving on Israel. But where do you think we are, and where are we headed with this very delicate relationship? Well,
we are headed for confrontation, and it's something that I'm very, very concerned about. The fact of the matter is we'll have a vote in the Congress. It's going to be one of the first votes that comes up about where is the Congress it stand and what the United Nations did. And, you know, even the Jewish community is divided among itself about whether there should be a two-state solution. And I think the way that this is being handled is greatly disturbing, and I think when it comes to national security, we've got to find ways that we are bipartisan, nonpartisan, and I'm deeply disturbed by what I've seen this last week.
No, I think we all understand differences of opinions. To watch this play out in a transition where you've got Secretary of State John Kerry giving his address on it, and then, in fact, Donald Trump actually I believe his tweets on it actually were ahead of the speech. We've just never seen somebody coming into office to have this kind of megaphone. So we have this really interesting, watching all of this, I guess we're watching the sausage made in a way that we haven't before.
Well, the UN vote was a jerk move for a president going out of office to create to create a foreign policy crisis for the incoming president. It's inexcusable. He has sat there for 8 years and done nothing constructive about the Middle East, about Israel, the Palestinian relationships. The situation is worse today than when he took office. And then on the way out the door, he throws a match on the fuel.
Daniel, you agree?
Yeah, I mean, it was there's no question about the timing on this, and all this did was laid bare with this administration and how they've treated Israel the entire time. You know, when I was over in Israel last year and talking with people, I got an earful from a lot of folks about this. Now, they're not people that necessarily all dislike Obama. That's not the case, but they're very savvy about the relationship, and I think that they looked at this and have said for the longest time that the United States is abandoning Israel and a historic commitment to Israel.
But interesting, Stephen, because...
Well, see, I think there's a big leap from the idea of a two-state solution to the idea of abandoning Israel, and that's where we have to be able to have a conversation. If not a two-state solution, what is the solution that is just for the Palestinian people, for the other Arab states in that area? And that's what Israel will not address. And I don't think that it's wrong to sort of push that issue and to say, listen, we gotta be serious about the idea that these are people who have rights that are equivalent to the Jewish people in Israel.
This non-vote at the UN gave all of Israel's opponents a club to beat them with.
Makes it harder for them.
And it makes them harder for them to do things, and that's the real issue. You raise a very good point, but that vote and the United States abstaining in that case made it much more.
And it makes it less likely that the Palestinians are going to come to the table with any realistic,
because now the UN has declared it illegal,
idea of a peace deal.
We could definitely spend an hour on Israel. I want to move to one other international arena that I believe that we're going to watch with great interest over these next, maybe not just 4 years, but longer than that. Congresswoman, the relationship between the United States and Russia.
Look, I find it deeply disturbing when a foreign country actively hacks into government officials' emails and tries to impact the outcome of an election. And our intelligence agency, in a very nonpartisan way, has given us objective findings saying that that occurred. We should not be politicizing this. I think what we did this week was an appropriate action, and there are Republicans in the Senate that are as active, as engaged, and as outraged as many other people that I know.
We've had polls, Nolan, showing that there is a lot of Americans who really aren't all that concerned about this. I don't care who you voted for.
They should be.
We better be.
They should be. But here's another example. This is not the first incident of Russian hacking. Russia has been hacking into our systems for a long time. And again, the administration sits there and does very little until the last minute, and then slaps sanctions.
We've been saying there have been sanctions the entire administration on the Russian government, not for hacking, but for other things. And what has been the net effect of those sanctions? I mean, part of the problem here is you are not dealing with a rational actor on that side. I don't think so. With Putin,
issue.
You think Putin is a rational
actor? You want
actor?
to understand this? This is all about great Russian power politics. That's what this is. Read your early 20th century, your 19th century
I know
Russian
where you're going.
That's what's going on.
He is a character out of.
But that's not. That's not.
Why does that make him?
But that's not a rational actor, Daniel.
I think he's doing what he's doing because he thinks he can get away with it. I mean, look,
he knows he can.
He waltzed into the Middle East. When you have Fox News anchors say to somebody, "Why is it such a big deal that the Russians are in the Middle East?" and I'm screaming at the television saying, "Do you realize?"
But the question is going forward. So what's the policy what's the policy that you adopt that moves him to a different space? What's the policy that stops him from hacking? I mean, Donald Trump doesn't much care about the hacking, I think, is really where he stands. And he's sort of hinted at this cooler relationship where the Russians can do some of the things that they want to do, and we'll do things that we want to do. So where does that get us?
Turkey and Syria and Iran. And Iran. I mean, good Lord.
We should have been doing a lot of things.
Our
When the Syria
relationship with Russia is worse than it was. Our militaries don't communicate, making it much more likely that an unintentional bumping into each other will become a confrontation.
Congresswoman, last word on it.
I actually agree with that, but let me ask you this. If we had done something prior to the election, what would have been the hue and outcry? Yeah. We could not take action until after this election.
Well, that's not true. Well, we could have.
What if these sanctions had been imposed in October?
We could have went ahead with the shield in Eastern Europe, the defensive shield. We could have moved our troops into the Eastern European
countries.
Oh,
my do you know what the hue and cry would have been in the political interpretation?
We deferred to Russia at every step, and they walked all over.
So what do you want to do?
He's right.
So what do you want to do?
I would tell the Eastern European countries, we're going to build the defensive shield. We're going to do military exercises with you.
Really?
We're going to have a show of force.
And that's why.
Otherwise, he'll do whatever he wants.
That's why Putin is pushing, because he's not going to get a rise. That's why he's doing it.
But I thought it was an interesting moment in President Obama's last news conference when he said that if Ronald Reagan were to see that the approval rating that American Republicans have for Vladimir Putin, he'd be rolling over in his grave. This is a really strange place to be for those of us who grew up in the Cold War.
He also said that the Russian economy doesn't build anything that anybody wants. And I thought that quote, the denigration of Russia as a country and as an economy, was remarkable by President. Not that I disagreed with him. But
I was going to say, I've been to Russia 3 times.
So have I. I've been there 5 times.
They can't build a mass production automobile. They don't build a refrigerator that anybody wants to buy.
The idea that the response to his sort of bravado and bullying is bravado and bullying of our own is a very odd, I think, post-Cold War. I don't think we're talking about bravado and bullying. We're talking about moving troops. Let's move troops closer.
We still need to worry about war and the nuclear weapons that they have, and a lot of the implications.
Let's sit here and let him do what he wants. That's your solution.
That's not my solution. The solution, I think, is some sort of collaboration with other states to put more pressure on the Russians. But I don't think that moving troops into Eastern Europe, as you say we should do, I think that's a provocation that
maybe we
I'm not
a big old red reset button over
to
there
back up.
Did you have to pick red?
I have the wrong word.
Yeah, exactly. Going to take one more break. We'll be back on Flashpoint right after this.